Oh, hello. Welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about my first impressions of Killzone Beta Decima. Now, not my first impressions of the rules, I've done that video, and not my first impressions of the kit either, but my first impressions after actually having finally played a game on the Killzone. And it's really left me asking the question of what even is this game mode? Right? Now, I know that lots of you will have gotten here before me. Some of you are much better than the game at me and will have seen the things I'm about to go on about just by reading the rules, and others will be far more into playing the game than me and will have got their set and built it straight away and played loads of games. But so maybe I'm a little late to the party. In fact, let me know in the comments. Have you played BZ, Killzone BD yet? Let me know. It's a weird game mode. Barricade placement, smoke grenades, and things like that become super important. The terrain feels meaningless in a weird way that I almost can't describe. Like, obviously, the terrain matters and it's important because it gives you the vantage point to be able to see people over the smoke. But like, you have access to the terrain without much issue, and then when you're on top of the terrain, there's basically no cover. And yes, there are jump tests, and if you fail the jump tests, that can be a thing. But you don't. It's hard to really explain how it feels. It feels like there's much less strategy involved. You're on top of the vantage points in the middle, and it doesn't really matter which vantage point you're on top of, because once you're on a vantage point, you can basically see everything, and you can basically be seen from everywhere. And if you're on the ground, unless you're on the flank bits, I'll show you the map in a minute, you basically can't be seen from anywhere unless someone's got a sniper rifle that ignores obscuring. And so your actual position feels weirdly irrelevant. Now, we didn't use the 3D objectives, we didn't use the narrative terrain. I know that a lot of people have said, oh, you need to use the 3D objectives and you need to use the narrative terrain, and that will ameliorate like some of the very things that I'm going to complain about, right? And they inject that element of tactical play, but it bears saying again, for our first ever game, like, first of all, I haven't even bothered building the 3D objectives because I'm a great believer in playing it at least a bit how Games Workshop say it should be played. And Games Workshop in that pack said that it should be played, the pack wasn't written with the 3D objectives in mind, but you can use them, and the pack wasn't written with the narrative terrain in mind and all the rest of this stuff. So maybe you get a better game when you have those things in, but Games Workshop put out the rules and the product, and I feel quite strongly that even if you think you know what you're doing, because maybe you're an Ace or a Ryan Slater or someone like this, and you can see and you have that ability that I truthfully don't have. I'm not a very good player, right? Of reading rules and seeing the Matrix and seeing how it's going to play out in the game, and you'll have a natural impulse to house rule things and to do stuff. Like, I've always resisted that because I have a great fear in the kind of the balkanization of a gaming community. I remember the bad old days of 40k. I've said this before on the channel, I'm sure, where like half the world was playing using the rules and the FAQs put out by Frontline Gaming, the ITC like comp, and then half of the world seemed to just be playing regular 40k, and it was like two different games were going on. So I'm always very resistant to any kind of like knee-jerk house ruling of things or building up a big thing of like homebrew rules, because not everybody will go along with them, and I don't like the idea of the community. Obviously, to me as an online content creator, being able to make a video or being able to pop into a Discord and have everybody playing basically the same game, super valuable, right? But maybe, so I'm sure you will write in the comments, we really need to use the 3D objectives, and that's Zimbad's take as well. He thinks it will be, I don't know whether he thinks it would solve the problem, but he certainly thinks it will be better with the 3D objectives. I would just note as well that before I move on to the actual game itself, the Killzone Beta Decima terrain is still out of stock. So Games Workshop aren't rushing, and it was pretty limited stock to begin with. They aren't rushing to replenish the stock, and it's not I don't know if this is. It feels like this third year of Kill Team is cursed. It feels like basically at the end of all of Games Workshop's games release cycles, we're cursed to get some releases that nobody likes. Like, this feels like the Pariah Nexus, dare I say it, of Kill Team 2021. You know? So let's look at the game. We played on map number 2 because we happened to put the board down that way up. And so map number 1 uses the printed island, so we decided to use this one. Sinbad was playing Kroot. I was playing my weird all Banshees Blades of Cain, right? And we both went Seek and Destroy. And it was a pretty... And if you've played 40k games like this before, you know, people have probably played this before. It was a very standard sort of, you know, he's going to shoot me in turn 1, and then in turn 2, I'm going to get some charges off and get into him and destroy him. And it's going to come down to if he did enough damage in turn 1 with the shooting. Or that's basically how I thought it was going to go. I'm going to draw on this map a little bit, right? So let's just grab the pen here. So I'm going to just do the Kroot in green. And truthfully, he ended up with, and you probably saw it on the thumbnail, he ended up with a massive... Oh, don't know what I just did wrong there. He ended up with a massive gun line of Kroot, like across here. And there was like a Kroot, one Kroot down here, and there was like one Kroot here, and then there was like a dog that went up here to my objective, and then there was a dog that was going up around the side, right? And then I'm going to swap around onto the other colour here. You know, I ended up with my leader, who was started off here, right, headed round this way. Got Robin Ransack on the dog, and then was on 1 wound and hid here, right? Because he also pretty obviously had Kill Your Leader. I had one here. I had someone go up here. You know, I had someone go up here. I had someone standing on here. I had someone go, you know, just all trying to get forwards. And you know, I made charges into here there, and I made charges into here, and the game wasn't. It wasn't that I got shot off the table in turn 1 even. It just didn't feel like there was that much in the way of strategic choice. It was just all came down to dice rolling and matchups. Let's just talk a little bit about Banshees. Banshees kind of suck. You know, you'd think, looking at the rules, Howling Banshee charges a Kroot. The Kroot's going to have -1 weapon skill. The Kroot's not that good in close combat. You'd think the Banshee would kill the Kroot, like as a dead cert, but like on a, you know, two combats at least, you just seemed incapable of rolling anything better than like a crit and a hit with the power sword. And then, you know, as long as the Krooty guy's got a couple of hits himself, you know, going to parry you, going to survive, you're just not. You're not destroying even like the basic 8 wound guys when you get into combat with them. So it almost, the vulnerability of not having any ranged weapons and having to rely on spending CP to reroll defense dice when you're not ready, and that, when you are ready and all that sort of thing, doesn't balance out. Right, which is challenging, and they're really challenging matches when it comes to CP. I burned through my starting CP, which locked me out of a lot of, like, they have CP tricks that would make them more reliable in combat as well. But because we were on better Decima, I felt like I needed to keep myself alive that first turn, so I used that defensive forewarned is what I'm talking about, the defensive stratagem, and I used a couple of CP rerolls, and they don't really have anything. I've played a lot of teams that just get like an extra CP every turn. Right, there are a lot of teams out there that just get an extra CP every turn, and that's just what they get, right? So I did a pretty starved for CP. They don't have very many ways. I could have taken a piece of war gear to potentially get 1 extra CP at one point during the game, right? But there wasn't that many ways of getting extra CP. And I know that I chose to play something weird and different and take the Blades of Cain and just run Banshees, and I'm on playing a weird skew team, and so this isn't a critique of Kill Team's balance. Like, if you go to a Kill Team and you go, I'm only going to use 1/3 of the of the tools available to this team, and you don't do very well, like, no, that is on. I fully admit that's on me. And I like the idea of the Banshees and painting them and having them as a little set. I think they look really cool, but they just don't game. They are essentially just worse Harlequins, right? I would just have been better off buying and painting some Harlequins and playing Harlequin. The thing is, right, I still could. You know, this is the sad thing of it, right? Because the deadline's quite soon for New Year, new kill team. You know, my Banshees are here. They're all built and they're in their display base, but they're only undercoated. They're unpainted. They are magnetized. I could easily get 8 Harlequins and base them the same, and recycle the display base, and just pivot to Harlequins. Whether I can paint 8 Harlequins before the deadline at the end of Easter basically is a mystery. Whether I can paint these before Easter is a mystery. Whether I can find the energy to actually paint stuff. Like, I've got at least 2 clear Saturdays to sit and paint. Like, we'll work something out. But there's a big part of me that's not really, you know. It's funny because people have advised me before when I'm struggling to paint stuff, and they're like, oh, it's because you never play with stuff that's unpainted, and if you play with stuff, that'll spark off your joy to paint it. And I'm like, really good advice. And I'll try it, and I'm like, oh. No, I'm incredibly demotivated to ever put paint on these because at least they suck. They really, really suck. Like, at least with the Inquisition team that I didn't gel with, I did paint them, and now at least I have some really cool painted Inquisitorial guys on a shelf. So it's actually not worked out that one. That piece of advice for me personally, with the way my brain works, because it wasn't fun. And it's not the first game I played with. It's the second game I played with the Banshees. First game on better Decima though. So that's a struggle of motivation as well. But even all that aside, I needed to unpack it because I needed to get it out of my system. Right, I actually do think that the format of Killzone Better Decima sucks more, and even if you ignore the fact that I've perhaps chosen a terrible kill team composition, like objectively, because I'm not using 2/3 of the team, and didn't set myself up for the most balanced game, I think my genuine feeling is that Killzone Better Decima lends itself really quickly to being won or lost in faction selection. You know, if you take a close combat themed team to a tournament and you draw a shooting team on Killzone Better Decima, like, good night, right? Zimbad said to me after the game in the car, we're driving him back because Zimbad doesn't drive, so I was driving him back to his house in neighbouring village, and he said to me, "Can you imagine if I was playing my intercessors?" Now, Zimbad, when he plays intercessors, nearly always brings pure shooting intercessors with a grenade launcher, but all bolt rifles otherwise. And yeah, man, I don't know, like. The intercessor climbs onto the vantage point and kills 2 Banshees, right, with his bolt rifle, and then just goes, okay. And then he stands there, and then and then you try and close combat with him, and he goes, well, I've got loads of wounds, whatever. Wow, like, I can't imagine that matchup working out for anybody, ever, on that kind of a map. So, it would have been a short game. And I think also it comes down to a lot of luck, right? I was lucky in the turn 1 actually went reasonably well in my favour. I didn't get shot off the table in turn 1. God knows I gave him a lot of guys to shoot at, but I managed to keep everybody alive. But turn 2 just... Well, you roll 4 dice your power sword, you roll 2 misses, a crit and a hit. Great, you're not going to kill nothing. Because parries exist. And then... they've got a turn, and then the Kroot goes, okay, eats his meat, and then hits you, and you die. Right? Because Zimbad went all meat, because he's a very stylish guy. Right? So, it just didn't have the same tactical nuance as the other modes of play do, in my view. I think, obviously my view is coloured by the teams that I chose and the matchup. I think that's also a weakness of the format, right? Like, I think the fact that it's so matchup dependent, like, and the matchup, I can't think that you can make an argument, right, for Into the Dark that it's the same thing. Like, oh, well, if you're a shooting team and you draw, like, an all-combat team, you're kind of screwed. I've been, like, quite handily, like, I've had hard times on Into the Dark from, like, Tau. And, can you imagine Tau on Better Decima? I've had a hard time on Into the Dark from Tau. I've had quite a hard time from Into the Dark from Votan. Like, I don't think it's true that a close combat team always wins on Into the Dark. I don't know. It could be at higher levels of play. But this just seems really vulnerable to that, and vulnerable as well to just barrels of dice. So yeah, that's really it today. So a shorter video coming in at 15 minutes or so, but that's fine, isn't it, for YouTube? So my final question is Kill Team Better Decima actually bad, or am I just being a really salty salt miner who's salty? Like, I lost to Zimbad like I always do. But the thing that's different, that makes me think that I'm not going off on. Often when I lose to Zimbad, I beat myself up a little bit because I am vulnerable to being like quite negative. I was like, oh, why did I lose? What did I do wrong? What should I do better next time? Where I got wrong? This game, I was just laughing because the map and the game type just made the whole thing feel faintly absurd. Like there was no plan or strategy that either. Now, Zimbad literally lined his crews up in a line, right? I'll just show you the thumbnail again, right? Do you see here? Right, let me get the laser pointer. He literally lined his crews up in a line and shot my dudes. I mean, my ladies, sorry. And it's like, that's it. It wasn't a case of one of us having a grand game-winning strategy, and that's how it felt. It didn't feel like I was outplayed. It just felt like a thing that happened. So, I don't know. I'd also love your comments and recommendations. Should I even persist in trying to paint the Banshees? I'm trying to dig myself slowly out of my hobby hole. You know, I've got all my Chaos Warriors built there off my hobby desk. I'm going to try and get my sisters finished tomorrow, during the hobby stream, or at least further up more progress with them. But I don't know. But this New Year, I don't need to paint something for New Year, new Kill Team, because I can't win it. And I judge the community and just go, oh yeah, I didn't paint anything, lol. But I probably should just persevere and paint the Banshees. And take them to Not to Kill Team and go, yeah, I've got these, and it'll be kind of fun. But there's part of me that's like, will it? Well, there is a part of me, if I'm being very honest, that wants to rush out to Games Workshop or send Helen to Games Workshop like tomorrow and be like, buy a box of Harlequins and buy the 2 Harlequin characters, and I'll build them and I'll, but that's probably folly. I don't know. I seem to have this curse with elves, right? I've got like half-finished Dark Eldar team on the shelves as well, because at one point I was new Hand of the Archon Kill Team, and it's just like, and now I've done more elves. It's like, maybe doing a 3rd elf team isn't the answer. Maybe I'm just not a person that can do elf. Just stick to Space Marines. Right, when's me Night Lords coming out? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. Again, I would love your advice. Of course, I'm going to play a couple more. I'm not going to say one bad game, or I'm done with it. I'm going to play a couple of games of Killzone Better Decima in case something clicks. And I go, oh, that's the thing. That's the play. That's the thing. Yeah, fine. But right now, I'm not seeing it. So I'd love you to share your experiences as well with Better Decima. Have you played lots of games on it? How did they go? How do you feel about it? Love to see that down in the comments as well. Along with, obviously, if you haven't subscribed and you watched all the way to the end, please subscribe. We're trying to get enough subscribers so that we get noticed by Big Daddy Games Workshop and get sent some free stuff and part of their influencer program, and all that would be really cool. I consider membership and all the other wonderful things. Hope you've enjoyed the video. I'll see you again. So this is recording it on Monday. Members are getting it on Monday. It's the Tuesday video for everybody else. Enjoy that. So I'll be streaming from your perspective tomorrow. On Wednesday at 7:30, I'll be doing a hobby stream. And so I look forward to seeing you all there, and we can surely pick up on some of these topics of conversation then. All right. Cheery bye. Have a great one. Bye-bye. 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 Bye.